So in this video I'm first going to analyse Carlos Baleba against two other central midfielders and then suggest a cheaper alternative to the three, specifically analysing his performance in the Champions League against Real Madrid this season. Well, I'll start off by telling you who those two other players are, and it's Adam Wharton and Martin Zubimendi. Now these two, as well as Baleba, would all play as deeper lying central midfielders, capable of playing either in a double or a single pivot. However, I think all three are slightly stylistically different, with Zubimendi being much more of a regista, lacking the sort of athleticism that Baleba has, but certainly being much better technically in congested areas, and having a truly elite level football intelligence which can't really be quantified by statistical metrics. However, Wharton has these similar sorts of attributes as well, I would say better than Baleba, but not to Zubimendi's level, whereas when it comes to physicality, athleticism, defensive capabilities and ball carrying into space, Baleba is the best of the three, with Zubimendi below Wharton, who once again would be sandwiched between Baleba and Zubimendi when ranked on ability for these particular attributes. For Manchester United, given that we already have Agate, I think we do need someone who is press resistant in the build-up and is truly elite technically, capable of circulating the ball efficiently to keep the energy in the attack, threading disguised passes between the lines and switching play with longer passes from deeper positions, playing those longer passes either out to the winger on the outside of the system in a wide position or over the top of the back line looking for runners in behind. But before I go any further, if you want to check out any of the new season jerseys, go over to Jersey FIFA. They've also got club and international retro jerseys as well. You can use code Atlantis for a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which will be linked in the description. Now Baleba can certainly do this, however I don't think his close ball control or awareness is as high as either Zubimendi or Wharton's, and so despite him being an absolute monster defensively, as his FB ref report shows, due to his speed over short distances, athleticism, upper body strength, reading of the game and defensive technical ability, I would prefer Adam Wharton, as at this point in his development I don't think Baleba quite has the elite level awareness, technique or passing ability in congested areas when he's dropping to the edge of the box and looking to play out of those sort of rondo situations that I think Adam Wharton and Martin Zubimendi would specialise in, alongside either Mainu or Agate in that midfield double pivot. Zubimendi would be incredible to have in the build-up phase, just having a knack of knowing exactly when and where to play a pass, but out of possession I think Wharton and particularly Baleba are far better, with both Wharton and Baleba being significantly more athletic and having a higher volume of defensive output, whilst also being capable of covering greater distances, which will be needed when pushing up to win the ball in the press or shifting over to the flank when the opposition look to build out down the channels. Wharton, in my opinion, has a necessary mixture of Zubimendi's technical ability in possession, as well as what Baleba offers out of possession. In the build-up phase, all three would certainly be an improvement on what United currently have. But before I break down exactly how, if you want to check out any new season jerseys or retro club or international shirts, go over to Jersey FIFA. They've got a variety of different shirts available. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. So Baleba does have the powerful ball carrying ability when receiving the ball with his back to goal, being able to drop a shoulder and then powerfully driving past an oncoming presser into the space in behind the opposition's high pressing midfield, which could be maximised by having two of Garnacho, Ahmad or Rashford either side of the centre forward, starting in deeper positions in the half space, dragging the fullbacks high and narrow before using Baleba's turn and beating of the press as a trigger to spin in behind the fullback on their back, looking to race ahead into the space that's been vacated, wherefrom Xerxes or Højlund can then look to drop off, firstly to offer Baleba a passing option to feet, from where they can either look to play a 1-2 with Baleba, lay the ball off for one of the on-running wing-backs, or find one of the two attacking midfielders with through balls down the sides of the centre-back. But also their deeper movement will also create that space in the first place, with one of the opposition centre-backs having to either follow their movement deeper, vacating that space, or hold their position in the back line and allow Xerxes or Højlund to receive the ball to feet before turning and driving forward. However, with either Zubimendi or Wharton in that double pivot alongside Agate or Mainu, United wouldn't have the same athletic ball carrying ability that Baleba would provide. Though with either of those two, they would have players who are better technically and have greater awareness in those type of rondo type situations that occur in the build-up phase on the edge of their own box. And so because Wharton or Zubimendi are better suited to progressing the ball with their passing, rather than turning their presser with their back to goal and driving into the space, I would have the right-sided centre-back, say Dalot or Mazraoui for example, starting in a a wider position, level with the left wing back on the other side, with the right wing back either Mazraoui or Dalot ahead, holding a higher position on the flank, before looking to use Walton or Zubimendi's deeper movement as a trigger to make a diagonal run into the space created by Walton or Zubimendi's movement deep, with the possession strategy being to use Walton or Zubimendi to provide a bounce pass out to De Ligt, who can then look to find Dalot, for example, with a line breaking pass, releasing him in behind the opposition's midfield press, between the left-sided midfielder and central midfielder if that passing lane is open, or if it's not open because of the narrow positioning of the left-sided midfielder, he could look for a pass up the line into Mazraoui, who can drop into the space that Dalot has vacated, with United then looking for Mazraoui to find Dalot's third man run with a diagonal pass inside, and so Dalot becomes the one driving into the space behind the midfield rather than Belabor, looking to find Xerxes' feet or thread the ball through for the two attackers wide of Xerxes, making those movements in behind from the half space down the outside of the centre backs. And whilst Walton and Belabor could both work in either system, I think the player I'm going to analyse now can do both to an extremely high level, and that player is Reijnders, and his performance against Real Madrid earlier this season in the Champions League showcased his ball carrying and progressive passing ability at the highest level. And whilst the other three would cost around 50, 60 million, maybe as much as 70 million pounds to sign, I think the 26-year-old Dutchman would be available for United this summer for between 40 to 45 million. So here we see Reijnders with the ball in front of the Real Madrid midfield line, midway inside his own half, but look at how he's able to progress the ball past the midfield into the Real half completely on his own. Tchouaméni moves out of the midfield line in order to engage Reijnders, who then adjusts the angle of his run so that his body is between Tchouaméni and the ball, before driving directly at Luka Modric, and now in this position you can see where the space is, and to be honest most players would probably look to split Modric and Tchouaméni with a pass into Alvaro Morata, which would be a good option, but with Morata a few yards in front of the Real Madrid centre-backs, Milan would have to exchange a few quick passes to work the ball around them. Instead, with one touch, Reijnders is able to drive through Modric and Tchouaméni, with his powerful running allowing him to completely bypass Modric, catching him flat-footed and taking him completely out of the game. And now the Real Madrid centre-backs are forced to back off, opening up the space for Reijnders to drive into, wherefrom as Tchouaméni approaches him from behind, he can now drop the ball off to Pulisic, and now Reijnders, completely on his own, through his ball-carrying ability, has allowed Milan to progress the ball from inside their own half in front of the Real Madrid midfield line to in behind the midfield line in the final third. But it's not just his ball-carrying ability which can be used as a method of ball progression, as here he receives possession on the edge of the final third, with Real Madrid sitting off in an incredibly vertically and horizontally compact 5-4 shape on the edge of their own box. Because of the narrowness of Real's shape, the space is out wide, with a clear passing lane open from Reijnders out to Emerson Royal. However, Reijnders sees that Emerson is open and rightly tries to avoid giving him the ball because he's watched him at Tottenham, and so he's going to try to thread the pass between Bellingham and Modric, but in order to do so, he needs Bellingham's body positioning facing Emerson, expecting the pass out wide, and so Reijnders shapes like he's going to play that pass out to Emerson before at the last second, using that Busquets-inspired disguise technique to close his hips on the ball, punching the ball on the inside of Bellingham and finding Musa in a congested area between the lines, which is now going to force Rudiger to move out and engage him on the edge of his own box. Here we can see an example of what Reijnders could provide in terms of movement, as he has the ball in front of the Real midfield line, Tchouaméni moves out to engage him, and so Reijnders drops off the ball to Tomori, but rather than just holding a position in front of the midfield line, he instantly makes a movement in behind Tchouaméni, looking to pick up a position between the lines from where he can either look to receive the ball again to feet, or make a run from that position in behind the back line, which is exactly the sort of vertical movement that Amorim's midfield double pivot needs, especially if you have players like Xerxes, Ahmad or Bruno Fernandes playing ahead, who in general are going to be looking to move towards the ball in order to receive it to feet, rather than running in behind. This clip is from the second half and it shows that Reijnders isn't only capable of progressing the ball from the middle to the final third, but also a creative threat when in the final third as well. Teo has possession on the corner of Real's box, and you can see that with Lucas Vazquez, the Real right back, pushed up, the space is in behind him, down the wide section of the box. Teo pops the ball off to Reijnders and immediately accelerates into the space behind Vazquez, but Reijnders produces a piece of magic, with a first time, outside of the right boot, lofted pass over Vazquez's head, releasing Teo into a dangerous crossing position inside of the box. And here we see another example of Reijnders' ball carrying, this time from inside his own defensive third after a turnover. Bellingham's pass is behind Mbappe, allowing Reijnders to gain possession, and immediately he sees the space in front of him and drives into it, once again adjusting his running direction to put his body body between the oncoming Real Madrid player, Lucas Vazquez, and the ball as he drives at Camavinga, but this time he recognises that the space isn't there to carry the ball past the Real Madrid central midfielder, and so this time opts to play the pass into Morata, played with perfect timing just as Camavinga moves out to engage him, where from Reijnders can now use the momentum of his run to get goal side of Camavinga and open up the passing lane for Morata to release him in behind the Real Madrid midfield yet again. But we also saw his defensive capabilities in this game, as he can definitely function in a midfield double pivot, both from an athletic and a defensive standpoint. Here we see Lucas Vazquez gets to the ball ahead of Leao, midway inside the Milan half, and Reijnders is quick across the ground to engage Vazquez, and he puts in a solid tackle to stop the attack. And he caps off the performance by showing that he can be a goal scoring threat when he is able to break into the box himself. But just quickly, if you do want to sign up to the Instagram in-game analysis group chat, we will be discussing everything during the Arsenal game. You can sign up to my Patreon, I'll leave it linked in all the usual places. So here initially he receives the ball, with Camavinga pressing in from behind, and he's able to put his body between Camavinga and the ball, enabling him to turn, wherefrom Militao applies pressure from his right shoulder, and Reijnders once again arcs his movement in order to put his body between Militao and the ball, before finding Leao close to the touchline, and then immediately spins and runs off Militao. Leao drives past Militao, with Reijnders alongside Abraham and Loftus-Cheek to his right, looking to drive into the final third. But now as Leao is about to drive past Lucas Vazquez, we can see the intelligence of Reijnders' movement, as with Rudiger moving over to confront Leao, Reijnders checks his run and makes a movement to the blind side of Rudiger. And when Leao is able to play the cutback, splitting Rudiger and Vazquez, Reijnders is touched to get the ball under control, and then the half volley with his second touch as the ball is dropping is even better, flashing under Lunin and capping a fantastic performance from the Dutchman. And so overall, I would love to sign either Adam Wharton or Carlos Baleba, with my preference being Wharton, just because I think he's better in congested central areas when it comes to playing around pressure with quick passes, and using a disguise technique to thread passes between the lines. However, Baleba's powerful ball carrying would also be a fantastic asset for Amorim's side, particularly in build-up, when United are being pressed aggressively and there is space behind the opposition's midfield line. However, considering both Baleba and Wharton are likely to cost in excess of £60 to £65 million, I think Reijnders, who is slightly older, 26, 27 by the start of next season, but is arguably more developed in terms of his overall skill set, for around £45 million would probably be the better option for United come the summer. So let me know who you prefer, Adam Wharton or Carlos Baleba, and what you think of Tijani Reijnders as well. Also, if you want to sign up to the Instagram group chat, I'll leave my Patreon linked in all the usual places as well.